I'll live the rest of my life as a villain who will make the world tremble with fear. Chills, listen. Togashi has cooked up his greatest, arguably best backstory. The whole recontextualization of the troop and understanding what made the Phantom Troop what it is today was perfect, and this is my second favorite chapter in the Succession War. And this whole backstory of the Phantom Troop, which I'm not sure is going to be completely done in this coming chapter, but if it is done, it's been amazing and has really put a whole new light onto one of Togashi's greatest characters, being Crollo. But the way in which the setup of this chapter does, as well as recontextualizes something as York New City, which is an arc that I now have to go either reread or rewatch to really see the build up that has come from this arc to currently now. But there's so many things that were done so well within the backstory, and let's begin first with the whole beginning of these kids in Meteor City. So what we can see is my guy Crollo is a better vigilante than my guy Batman. Listen, Crollo's done more for Meteor City than Batman ever did for Gotham. All I'm saying is he got rid of his Joker, but to take away from jokes and to focus on obviously the backstory. The way in which this has made them get to their point of view is done well. Because what we get at the start of this backstory is these kids in this already shithole being Meteor City, in which they basically have nothing around them and find joy in the smallest things. Something as the little trash or stuff that they have, which they will talk to each other, whether that was Crollo reading his book, learning new languages or learning new things. Or when we get to their whole play and we see Crollo the movie star begin to talk to the people and play monster. Everything felt like a build up to not only Crollo's kind of mixed personality where you see different shades of him when he was playing the monster, but to take it to a step further with the fact to see the real beginning of one of my favorite moments when we get back to the Requiem, which he says this was a Requiem for you, Uvagin, back in York New City. And this makes a lot of sense based on the events of what happened and the small joy that they got from this play, which they would showcase to the whole of Meteor City. And he's done by isolating himself and isolating themselves as the biggest villains to protect their people. And it goes full circle with what they say about Meteor City, which is, we accept anything you leave here, but don't ever take anything away from us. You see how it all comes full circle, is why I say Togashi is special. The way in which these kind of things have been dangled in front of our heads and has now come full circle through this backstory, it was done great. But to go and let's talk about briefly parts of the chapters, because my favorite part was when you get to see Crollo's breakdown, where he says that I would not tell you what the note says, even if it kills me. Now, I still hope we do get to see what will be said on the note, but the whole change of persona and the humanity of obviously the Phantom Troop, because this isn't the first time. We saw that back in York New City, and it went from a gang that was deemed as a vicious group of criminals, but you saw genuine connections between them, and is why some of the things such as when Crollo was making his decisions, and people such as Pakinoda was saying, this doesn't seem like Crollo. Or at least the Crollo they hadn't seen for a long time, because they had to restrict that end to become the biggest criminals in the world. So now what we're in a situation is, it gives us nice parallels to somebody such as Kurapika, in the way in which they were both kids who were both happy, carefree, and the world around them has shaped up the person they have become. Now in Kurapika's case, he's gone through a whole dedication of revenge, whereas the Phantom Troop have gone to protect those from behind them and to become the biggest criminals, which they enact their law of whatever it is, whether that you believe is justice or being a villain anyway. Right now they're very black and white. Their actions can be of aid to people who they deem as worthy, but at the same time it could easily be at the detriment of a lot of people. And I think when we finally get the whole context onto the Kurtakan massacre, it will come to a full circle, which will split a lot of people on their opinions on the Phantom Troop as anti-villains or genuine bad people. I think at this moment of time, even if they are, because I'm still confident that they have something to play with the Kurtakan massacre, but now with the way that has been set up, and what we can infer with the whole movie star kind of thing that they've talked about, and then with the fact that what they could say is the way in which the killing was done to be seen as some art form, it seems nicely set up with somebody such as Saradanik, who's going to end up being somebody who connects to both not Kurapika, but to now the Phantom Troop itself. So now we're in the part when obviously the Succession War, where the Phantom Troop are trying to get rid of the 4th Prince's faction in Morena. It's going to get nice full circle because we know that Soradnik has Piau's head and he has the rest of the Scarlet Eyes. Person who joins arts with killing of people, which is Soradnik. It feels as if everything is really starting to connect to each other, and this final war and huge battle that we're going to see ensue into the Succession War is going to come soon, and will have all the major parts to play. I think the choice of using of this Phantom Troop backstory does make me think that they're going to die, I can't lie to you. But regardless of this, I feel as if this has done wonders for this character. Even someone such as Uvigin. Uvigin, when he goes into his whole thing talking about how he can never betray the troop, it makes so much more sense because their bonds run far deeper than anything that Kurapika could have told them, and it's why Kurapika could not even understand why he would go through that far to protect them. It makes sense when he says, if you're our leader, I'll go through with you to the end. And then at the end of his life, he ends up making sure to seal himself from saying anything that could be a detriment to the people that he cares the most about. I think even the brief knowledge when we got to see Machi, I think that's how you say the name, I can't lie to you. The shorty who be healing up Hisoka. When we get to see her potential outlook on now getting Nen, I think her whole character arc, if we get to see that more, is going to build up even more, and we're going to get a new contextualization on the rest of the Phantom Troop and to build them up to a whole new level. I think Krollo, an amazing character. His choice to then become the person that he needs to be to protect his city. But to even get to that even more, it's really switched up the persona on how you view the Phantom Troop, depending on how the outcome of the Kurtakai massacre goes. I don't think this will excuse the acts that they have done in regard to becoming the greatest criminals. But one of Krollo's quotes with the fact that he knows that Sarasa would not be happy for this, but he would rather beg forgiveness to her for the apology, bro, like, emotionally amazing. Like, this is why I've been specifying that Togashi is special. These chapters and in-depth analysis of their characters, you don't get that without the build-up that happened from York New City and even taking that to a step further. But in a way, you understand and you can empathize with the way in which what they were doing. They're already in a situation, like I talked about, that they come from a place of nothing. They weren't guided by people older than them to help them in that regard. So they did what they thought was best to protect themselves and protect those around them, in which they became and created the spiders. And I think, listen, I have nothing to say. I think it's amazing. And I think more than just that, the use of Sarasa as the final push to their motivation is amazing. Because what we can see is that this was gradually being built up with the whole horrors with what was happening in Meteor City. There were already people getting kidnapped. Krollo then feels responsible with the fact that he allowed her to go on her own and feels responsible for the death. But this isn't the sole factor. The whole conditions of where they're from was building up onto that, being unable to fill the void of what it is in their lives. So this was the next thing to be able to make themselves the biggest criminals in which the world would tremble with fear. Is why when you get to even some small things with Nobunaga, where he talks about, oh, I thought the Phantom Troop were a group of far bloodthirsty killers, etc., etc. And he's like, I don't know what you've heard about the troop, but that is not it. And I feel as if the persona of what the Phantom Troop is aligns perfectly with what Krollo has done. But when you get deep beneath the surface, you begin to see the more human connection between them and see how the gradual over decline of their characters to become these villains has come to pass. So I feel as if Togashi now doing this backstory when he has done wonders for their character, and I'm excited to see how far he takes these characters and make it even more drastic. Now this leads me to the fact that Kurapika and the spiders' interactions about to occur soon, and the whole kind of thing with Soradnik is all going to boil down to the biggest conflict to come. I feel as if the last couple chapters where we got to see even Soradnik's potential psyche in that brief kind of backstory being spoken from his friend's point of view, that is going to hit when we get to dive in more into his character, as ready as we got a lot of the tidbits in regard to Kurapika in Volume 0, as well as that character development that has gone through the series with him. All these characters end up interacting together is really going to create, in my opinion, what is going to be the best shonen arc, and arguably my favorite arc in anime mangas in general. The writing, the way it's connecting so many characters, Togashi is a special guy, and is why I've been pushing. Nobody can do it like my GOAT man. But now we go into predictions. I'm not too sure what is going to happen next. I'm not sure if this is going to be the wrapping up of the backstory, but it would look to be a potential good spot, and then potentially give us some information on what is going back on the boat. But then again, I feel as if we're still very ignorant to the whole Kurtaka massacre, but maybe that will be done through another POV when we get the spiders interact with Kurapika. Maybe Kurapika would talk about it with them, but the whole thing is that we already know from the interactions back with Uvagin, he says he remembers these people with eyes that would light up and that they potentially were involved in the massacre. So even though I do believe Soradnik and them potentially had something to play, the whole kind of backstory on that will really change a lot of people's opinions, like I've talked about, and push the Phantom Troop to, in my opinion, the current best anime manga group. With me, obviously, still needed to check out other series, but I mean, yeah, amazing. Now, obviously, to those who are familiar with my content, I did say I was going to do Hunter x Hunter content from time ago, but I've been frauded. But listen, I will be up to date. I'll be doing weekly reviews, and I'm going to be dropping a lot more Hunter x content because I love the series and this is one of my favorites, 100%, and I'm going to talk about it a lot. But thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. Let me know your potential on what you thought the backstory was, because I think the overall backstory has been amazing, and this potentially being the conclusion has done wonders for somebody such as Crollo's character and the whole Phantom Troop in general.